Welcome to Coffee with the Candidates, Round 2, The Road to the General. This second portion of the program will feature candidates vying for public offices in the Guam legislature, the Attorney General's seat, congressional delegate, and the top seats of Governor and Lieutenant Governor of Guam. It's a Republican episode featuring former Senator Telo Taitague and current Senator Louisa Muna. Stay tuned as Coffee with the Candidates will continue after this.
Today, I'm Jeff Marchessault with Coffee with the Candidates, and to my left is none other than Senator Telo Taitague. I can call you Senator because you've served as a senator before.
Yes, I have, and Day Guam.
Okay, Telo, looking back at your experiences, both as a senator and as a policy advisor for the current administration, what do you feel like is the most pressing issue that you want to bring forth as a legal initiative in the legislature?
Well, on a perspective of my platform actually is healthcare. I think healthcare is something that we really need to start focusing on more, especially our hospital. So one of the things that I would like to do is to build a new hospital. Our hospital is 40 years old, and though the Guam Regional Medical Center is a great asset to the island, we still need a public hospital to address. So my initiative in this 35th Guam legislature, if so elected by the people of Guam, I would like to move forward toward that initiative.
Okay. You know, it seems like it would be something where we would have to be building at the same time that GMH is still in operation. Is that how you foresee proceeding forward?
Yeah, absolutely. You have the same perspective as what we did during JFK or Okadu or Lee Guan Elementary School. In that perspective, in that way that we can build a hospital. So it can be done. Okay.
Over the last couple of years, observing the legislature and some of the contentiousness between the administration and the majority, what are some decisions you would have made a little bit differently in the legislature these past 2 to 4 years?
Well, I know that one of the initiatives that we tried to implement, well, at least the governor of Guam tried to do, was our tax refunds. And this was something that would allow the taxpayer to receive the refunds within like a week or 2 days. And unfortunately, that bill did not get through, and I'm hoping that we can move in that direction. There are a lot of people out there that 6 months is a long time to receive their tax refunds. So that was something I would hope the legislature would have passed and allowed the governor to borrow on that money to pay our people what's due to them.
A trend that people are noticing right now is that we could have a legislature for the first time that is dominated by women. They're anticipating a majority of women. So it's almost as though there'll be a coalition of a different kind. And I'm not saying that the women will always agree on certain issues, but doesn't it stand to reason that women are sensitive to certain issues that men are a little bit deaf to?
Is this going to get me in trouble?
No, not at all.
With other guys, the other gentlemen, but no, I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
Recently, we saw some legislation that was introduced by Mary Torres that
yes, Safe Haven.
Safe Haven was a perfect example. Right. And the women had more to say about that issue, I noticed, as somebody who was covering the legislature than the men had to say, because they feel a little closer to home to that issue because they're mothers. The men had to agree that it was a good idea, but the women seemed to contribute to the conversation more than the men did.
They did, but honestly, I think that fathers have a lot to say in it as well, and I think that women are more sensitive on a family perspective, and I think that it's hand in hand. I know women, we tend to be more, in every aspect of the word, we multitask much better. Sorry, but we can multitask much better. But not to say that the male side of this can't contribute to things that are just as important but I would like to see a dominant female legislature in this 35th. When I was a senator in the 30th Guam legislature, I was the only female on the Republican side. So it would be a great breath of fresh air to have more women there to work with.
Recently, we've seen an outcropping in violence in certain neighborhoods on Guam, particularly in the north. And there are different issues related to that. And one of the things that Lieutenant Governor Tenorio has pointed out is that a lot of it has to do with lack of education. When people are in dire straits and they don't have the means to hold a job, whether or not they have a high school diploma or they have the know-how to work, they often turn towards a quicker means to getting the money that they need, or turning to violence to get what they think that they need. How do you see this next legislature focusing on the problem of pockets of violence? J.I. Cruz calls it isolated incidences, but what we're seeing is that there is a trend in youth violence in certain places on Guam.
Right. Well, I think education is key, not just at a school level, but also as a community. And with all this violence that is going around, I mean, we know that this has happened before, but what's happening now is that we're able to see it through social media. And I definitely encourage everyone out there to continue to report these incidences. What we can do is, of course, support as a legislature public safety. But we also need to work with our community. Our community needs to get involved. Neighborhood watches are very, very important. People who videotape, and we were just speaking about this, but people who videotape, it's actually a great way of being able to capture these individuals and take them to court and prosecute them and put them away. They're criminals. But we need to get more involved on a community aspect, bringing in members of the mayor's office, consulate generals from other islands that are here, and get them involved and all work together, because only as a community can we address some of these issues and hopefully rectify them.
And perhaps if one person is using their cell phone to videotape the incident and they're brave enough to do that, maybe the other person should take the initiative to actually call 911.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've seen situations where one person is videotaping and you can see the other person holding their cell phone but not calling.
911, yeah. I saw one similar to that, but I believe the other person did have a phone and he told her to call 911 right away. But yes, that's very important. If you're going to videotape out there, hang up, call 911, then continue on to capture it, so that the police officers and people in the law enforcement can actually review the tape and know what happened exactly. So yeah, it's becoming more of an issue. And I think that basically on a community effort, we need to get together as an island, as a community, to stop this.
As critical as all these problems are, people need a little rest and relaxation, a little entertainment sometimes. And we have some lighthearted questions also on our agenda for all of the candidates. And you, coming from an entertainment background, you connected with people in a special way because you were an entertainer before you got into politics. And I'm just curious what you do for entertainment and how you see arts and entertainment and culture as an important part of culture on Guam.
Well, actually, not just in the music industry, which I was in there for almost 23 years performing, but I think also on an athletic perspective too. I was a former tennis instructor and volleyball enthusiast, and so, on the entertainment section of it, continue to bring music into the lives of people, and it's so much, gives you so much good soul, and I would like to encourage that through also culture, incorporating the two together, and support that through the arts on Guam. I think it brings an avenue of just calmness and happy and good vibes, and then on the athletic side, which goes hand in hand. It's all about feel good, right? And especially at the elementary level, to teach them the importance of activities. I mean, you and I both know in this next generation, playing video games. I mean, I just met one of your staff who has a almost 2-year-old who knows how to call on the phone. So they love to, but it's important to also encourage our kids these days to get out there, run, climb a tree, you know, exercise. I mean, this is the beginning of health, you know, to teach them the importance of exercise too as well. So we need to support new gyms and recreation centers for them, because it also attributes to the health of our island as well.
Yeah, it seems people they need an outlet and to come together in a
Yeah.
positive way. And that was no more evident than when we had that cultural exchange during the Festival of the Pacific Arts.
Yes,
It was amazing.
great, yeah.
There were no bad vibes anywhere. I mean,
was
of
good.
course you always have
Love,
your
love.
critics,
Yeah.
but for the most part, you had people coming in from all over the Pacific in one place. And the vibe in Hagåtña, and anywhere that there was some sort of presentation, some sort of skit or play, or even just the beautiful handcrafts and fine arts that were on display in the museum. The feeling was you didn't think about what separated us, but what connected us. And it seems like sports and entertainment has that effect and power.
Music. Music always connects individuals together, and we see a lot of that. In fact, our Chamorro language got a boost when we started seeing the next generation sing all in Chamorro. And this was good because not only are they singing in Chamorro, they're understanding it. And music brings everyone together, I think, and we should do more loving than hating, you know. And
it seems in a world that is so
music.
Politically divided, it seems like polar opposites, the tendency is to insult one another rather than exploring one another's thoughts and feelings on issues. And I think when you have elements like music and entertainment and the arts, it gives everybody common ground. It's hard to disagree when you...
Are you a musician yourself?
Yeah, but
I
kind
didn't
of a
know
hack.
that, Jeff.
I learned on my own. I
Really?
never learned to read music very well, but singing and guitar, that's what
So
I
you
did.
do play guitar?
Yes,
Oh,
that's
very nice. I've
But
got
on
to
that
listen
note,
to you.
on that note,
I've got to listen to you.
it's
Yeah.
great connecting with you. We're going to take a break. You're with Coffee with the Candidates, and Senator Telo Taitague is joining us here on Coffee with the Candidates. We'll be back right after this. Today, I'm Jeff Marchessault with Coffee with the Candidates, and to my left is incumbent Republican Senator Louisa Muna, and she's no stranger to our neck of the woods. She is an entertainer and a broadcaster in her own right.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much for having me here. Actually, this is a great opportunity for me to come back home again, because it really did feel like I was coming back home.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
Thanks
so
for being
much.
with us. You know, the first thing I wanted to ask you is where in the world you find free time between being a lawmaker, a mother, and an entertainer?
Okay, let's reprioritize that.
Okay.
First, I'm a mother.
Okay.
And then I'm a lawmaker, and then I'm an entertainer. So I don't want people to confuse that, because a lot of the times people think that being a lawmaker, that's all you do. And I find that there's no balance in that. I've seen some lawmakers who dive into and go so deep, so far deep, that you can see the stress just building up in their life. I, on the other hand, have other things that help me cope with a lot of the stress that being a lawmaker brings. Number one is being a mom. So my son and I do a lot of movie time. We go to the movies, and this is how we de-stress.
Does he keep you grounded?
He keeps me in my generation. There's one, I just said the other day, I said, bet you haven't seen him in a minute. And he's like, Mom, did you just say in a minute? I said, yeah. He goes, that's not your generation, don't say that. So he keeps me grounded, yes. And I think I do the same thing with him. And he's still with me. My daughter, who lives off island, so I still communicate with her very often. But aside from that, I still perform regularly. So when I did take office, people thought that I was going to quit singing, but I can't do that. That's part of me, who I am. And it definitely became very handy. At the end of the week, I couldn't wait to go and sing and just, just be emotionally involved.
You feel like it relieves a lot of stress and connects with voters, right?
It sure does. As a matter of fact, I don't take breaks anymore during my performances because majority of the time we're discussing policy issues, and which is good because now it gives another outlet for people to come in and communicate with me.
And as much as you pride yourself on being a family person and you're a working mom, that's what your campaign literature is all about, and that's how you present yourself in the legislature and to your constituents. How are we going to beat the high cost of living? A little before we went on camera, you and I were talking about the fact that there is a disparity, perhaps even a growing disparity between those with wealth and those who are more middle income, and especially those who are lower income. As the economy grows, it seems like there are fewer people who benefit as a result, and perhaps there are others who are still struggling to rub those two dimes together and make ends meet.
I think, well, that whole slogan, working mom, I think so many people can actually relate to that. And you don't even have to be a mom, you could just be a single parent or just responsible for your household. That's really what a working mom is a responsibility that you have with your family. I've seen the bottom of the barrel. I understand what it feels like to pinch that penny. So during the whole budget process, when we were going through, and it was a grueling budget process.
I remember.
I put myself in that position when you had to think about how you were going to make the whole government budget balance and still be able to consider the fact that there are people that I was once, they are now currently at the situation that I was once at, trying to figure out how I'm going to stretch $50 to feed my family for the entire week. That was tough. I had to make adjustments. So I imagined it in my life that I never imagined that I would actually be in that position forever. I wanted to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I made adjustments to my life. I sacrificed a lot of things. I cut out a lot of things in my life. And I think people have a hard time doing that. They have a hard time with change. If we can offer them opportunities to change something in their life that may make things a little bit more affordable to get out of this darkness, because it's not always going to be this way. The Trump tax cuts really put us in a very binding position, and there's really not a whole lot we could have done about it. But I do feel like there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and there's a way to make it out of there, because I did. And that's the way I feel.
That's inspiring. One thing that we're seeing on Guam now is a rise in violence, and it seems to be isolated, this trend, to youth. And I'm not saying that it's only youth who are committing crimes, but it seems the growing trend is among wayward youth in certain pockets of Guam, particularly in the north, but not isolated necessarily to there. And the statistics bear out, even though the police department does tell us that these are isolated incidents. The fact of the matter is that the statistics show that there is a trend. And if you listen to our lieutenant governor as he's running for governor, what he's saying is it would be a good idea to offer some free education to people who otherwise don't have a way out of their situation. So they have a tendency to turn toward an easier way out. If they don't have the qualifications or the job skills to get gainful employment, what do? They turn to a life of crime. How do you see that priority fitting into your own legislative agenda?
Well, I do have a lot of public safety in my family. I grew up with a firefighter's, chief of public safety as my grandpa back in the day, and then I do have a lot of police officers within my immediate circle. So I understand the strain that they're going through now. So what I'd like to do is continue to support public safety. If I was to get another seat on the 35th legislature and just so happen to get the majority, I would love to spearhead public safety. That would be one of my dreams. Just so that I can, get on top of it and make sure that I support it as fully as I can. But what I noticed, and what I would like to do, and you're right, education is very important. If you give the kids enough education, then maybe it will pull them away from all these other misfortune. crime, you know. My suggestion, even as a single mom, is for parents, because we get so busy and we get so involved in our own lives that we tend to forget and maybe ignore some of the things or the signs that our children are telling us as they're growing up. These are the things that we need to focus on. Okay, let's talk to them a little bit more. Sit down with them. Put your phones and all of that away. I think that's a disconnection right now, is that technology is overtaking our children's lives, and we need to become a little bit more involved in it.
I'm glad you mentioned family time and values. One of the things that Chief Cruz of the police department is trying to concentrate on is what you might call soft power, more reach out types of activities in the community. Instead of always just violently cracking down, we see a trend in that in the United States, where certain races are even profiled, either for deportation, or certain races who are U.S. citizens. Blacks, for example, are profiled, and it seems as though they do not have as much justice in the criminal justice system, and that those communities are cracked down on harder. But on Guam, we have a little bit of a lighter touch, thank God. I don't see police violently cracking down. It seems that they have at least the capacity for training, but also the capacity for sensitivity, and they do demonstrate that. They don't seem to be quick to jump to conclusions. But now that we have a trend in youth violence, and it seems to be growing, the statistics bear it out, what do you see as the trigger to make sure that these programs begin to work, and how can the legislature help?
The programs, you mean the outreach?
Yeah, the outreach programs, faith-based, whether it be getting with nonprofit organizations, outreach groups that encourage education or training or skills training.
Mm-hmm. Well, as far as being in the legislature, I would like to maybe offer them a little bit more funding for these youth-based programs. I'm a part of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I've actually been a part of the Make-A-Wish Foundation for about over 10 years already, and that's one of my biggest passions. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to empower more of our youth to actually become more involved in nonprofit organizations such as. That way they can also see some of the other, they can kind of visualize their life and say that, well, maybe I do have it a little bit better than some other people do. I would like to empower more youth to be a part of nonprofit organizations.
And if they have somewhere to go and something to do that's actually productive, you'll see them returning to the life of crime far less frequently.
Less, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. What is your stance on transparency and accountability in the government of Guam? We've seen a lot of debate between the legislative majority and the current administration. Does the administration, whoever it might be after the election, need to be more transparent than it's been, or has it been transparent enough?
Everything can always be improved upon.
Sure.
I do believe that transparency is very, very important in government. The more transparent you are, the less questions, or the less, the less
scrutiny, right?
Yeah, right. So I think if you just give people, just show them exactly what's being done, then they'll have less concerns, or I'm trying to find the word where they don't have that trust anymore.
Well, I think you said the right word when you said show, because it seems one thing that GovGuam is lacking to some degree is digital technology, and we see that at the Department of Revenue and Taxation when they're really struggling to keep up on top of, for instance, where the Department of Land Management is with certain land issues and whether or not taxes have been paid. Mm-hmm. So do you see technology as playing a role, what they call fintech, and helping bring the community up to par with being more accountable and transparent?
Revenue and Tax is one of the agencies that I want to fully support, because if it weren't for them, we wouldn't have the revenues that we have. So yes, I do believe that technology should play a better role in it and make them a little bit more efficient. I mean, one of the biggest complaints that I get a lot is the wait time at Revenue and Tax. And I think if we incorporate more technology, then we can diffuse some of that stress.
I hate to cut this short. I've had such a good time talking to you. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining us on Coffee with the Candidates. I'm here with Louisa Muna. She's an incumbent senator looking for your vote in the 35th Guam legislature, this general election. Thank you for joining us, and join us again next time on Coffee with the Candidates.